Alrighty, so in the last lesson, we got our payment context class set up, which manages the state of our checkout flow, things like which payment method the user has selected, what's the shipping info, etc. Now we need to fill out our delegate methods here so that we can take actions based on changes to the payment context. For instance, when we select or add a new payment method or enter our shipping info and methods. So let's go ahead and take a look at our finished app just to see what we're going to be working on in this lesson. So if we come to our cart and if we click on payment method, you can see that we can select one of these and it will populate the payment method button with the selected payment method. Also with the shipping method, we can click on select method and we can enter our shipping address info. And then if we click next, then you can see that we have a couple of shipping methods here and we can select either of those. And then when we press done, that info will be populated right here. Okay, so right now in our app, the one here on the left, when we click on payment method, we can still select, but we aren't notified in our view controller that we've done that. Similarly with our shipping, we can select and we can add our address, but if we click next, we don't have that option of selecting shipping methods, all right? So that's what we're gonna be working on here. All right, so when changes are made to the payment context, we have this delegate method right here, PaymentContextDidChange. And as you might expect, this is called every time the contents of the payment context change. When this is called, you should update your app's UI to reflect the current state of the payment context. For example, if you have a checkout page with a selected payment method, just like we do in our simulator, selected payment method, then we should update its payment method with the variable PaymentContext.SelectedPaymentMethod.Label. If that checkout page has a buy button, then you should enable or disable it depending on the results of payment context is ready for payment. Cool, so we are going to update our UI when we get notified that the payment context has changed, and we're going to be looking at two things, the selected payment method and the shipping method, as you might expect right here, okay? So let's go ahead and update the selected payment method. All right, so I'm going to put a comment here. So we're going to be updating the selected payment method and updating the selected shipping method. Okay, so when any change to the payment context has occurred, then this delegate will be called. So we're going to do a check to see if there is a selected payment method for our payment context. So we're going to say if let payment method is equal to payment context, and that has a property selected payment method. And it says here this is the user's currently selected payment method, and it may be nil, which is why we are if let unwrapping it. So if we have one, then what we're going to do is we are going to change the title of our payment method button. Okay, so we are going to say payment method button dot set title, and our title is going to be payment method, which is a Stripe payment method, and that has a property called label, which is a string describing the payment method, such as Apple Pay or Visa 4242. So that's what we want. And then that is going to be for the control state dot normal. If there is not a payment method, then we are just going to say payment method button dot set title, or not image, set title, and we are going to say select method for dot normal. All right, and we're going to save that and let's test that out. All right, so I'm going to add a product, then go to our cart, And when we go to payment method, you'll see that it automatically populates. And that's because, remember that our payment context, it is going and fetching our Stripe customer object information. And then it's going through and is going through these Stripe payment context delegate methods. And it's already updating that for us. So that's nice. However, if we click on this and we select a different one, for instance, now that's going to update and change to MasterCard 4444. And if we put a breakpoint here, you can see where that happens. I'm going to click on this again, select Visa ending, and you can see that we have our breakpoint right here being called. And if I say continue, then that's going to update to Visa. All right, so that's looking real good. Now let's take a look at updating the shipping method. So right now, when we click on our shipping method, we can enter an address, but again, when we press next, we still get the payment context did change called, but we aren't getting the option to select a shipping method. And that's because we haven't added that. We need to manually, we as the developer, we are going to tell the app what types of shipping methods to include. And that's done in another delegate method called did update shipping method. Okay, so just type in that and then press return. It says inside this method, you should verify that you can ship to the given address. You should call the completion block with the results of your validation and the available shipping methods for the given address. Okay, and it says if you don't implement this method, the user won't be prompted to select a shipping method and all addresses will be valid. Okay, so that's why we aren't being prompted to select the shipping method yet, because we have not implemented this delegate method yet. So let's do that. All right, so depending on your location, your country, your shipping methods are probably going to vary quite differently than mine if you're outside of the United States. So these shipping methods, you can go ahead and tailor them to your location. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to add two, one called UPS Ground and another called FedEx, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. The way we do that is we are going to create a PK shipping method, and that's the name of the class. So I'm going to say let UPS ground equal PK shipping method, okay? And this defines a shipping method for delivering physical goods, okay? So I'm going to create that right there. And let's go ahead and I'm going to show you the finished app again. Let's go into our shipping. And when we look at this, we'll see some information here. We have the shipping method label. We have some details, arrives in 3 to 5 days. And then we have a price, all right? And so that's what we're going to set these properties for our shipping method here. So we've created our class UPS ground. Now we can say UPS ground dot amount. Okay, so this is the shipping method price. And for this one, we'll say 0. We'll make this one be the free option. Then we're going to add a label. So UPS ground dot label. And we'll go ahead and say UPS ground. Then we'll add some details. I'm going to say UPS ground dot detail is equal to, and we'll say arrives in 3 to 5 days. And then we'll say UPS ground dot identifier, and this is just the identifier that we can use to identify it in code, and that is UPS underscore ground. Okay, so we have one shipping method all set up. Let's do another one. Let's call this one FedEx. Okay, so I got let FedEx equal PK shipping method, and we'll set the amount. This one will cost something, so I'm going to say FedEx dot amount is equal to, and we'll say something like $6.99. Then we'll do a label, so FedEx dot label is equal to, we'll say FedEx. Then we'll say FedEx dot detail is equal to arrives tomorrow. So this is a super fast shipping. And then we'll say FedEx dot identifier is equal to FedEx. Okay. So again, just to reiterate, these are kind of just made up values. Again, it's going to depend on your business, whether you offer free shipping, all that kind of stuff, whether you're shipping internationally, etc. But you can tailor these for your specific business. Next, we can do a little bit of validation, and we need to use our completion handler here. Okay, so we have this completion here, a Stripe shipping methods completion block. Okay, and this has 4 parameters: a status, which is an enum representing whether the shipping address is valid or not. We have a shipping validation error. If the shipping address is invalid, an error describing the issue with the address. If no error is given and the address is invalid, the default error message will be used. And then we say which shipping methods are available for the address. And finally, we can set a default selected shipping method for the address. And again, that's just which one of these is automatically selected when this view loads. Okay, so let's do a little bit of validation first. I'm gonna do a check to see if the address is inside of the United States. So I'm gonna say if address.country is equal to US, then I'm going to say that this address is valid. So I'm going to say completion, and remember we have 4 parameters here. The first is whether or not it's valid, so I'm going to say dot valid, and then the second is an error status. I'm going to say nil. Then we include the shipping methods that are available. So I'm going to say UPS ground and FedEx. And then optionally, we can say nil for not having a default selected one, or you can put a default one. I'm going to say FedEx because I'm going to encourage people to pay for shipping maybe. So I'm going to say FedEx, and that will be the default one. All right, so this address.country validation, I recognize that not everyone is in the US, so you could replace that with your country, and this is the ISO country code of the address, okay? So if you open up a browser and just do a quick search for ISO country codes, you should be able to find your ISO code for your country. So for instance, Canada is CAN. Let's see here. What's another one? Maybe England. ISO country code England. Looks like GB is for Great Britain, UK, United Kingdom, etc. So you can just Google that and find your country's ISO code. Okay. So coming back to Xcode. If the address is not in the US, I'm just going to go ahead and say that we are not going to consider this valid. So I'm going to say else. And then I'm going to say completion. I'm going to say dot invalid, and then the rest of these can be nil. Okay. So again, the type of validation that you want to employ will again depend on your business. Are you going to be shipping internationally? Then maybe you don't want to do a check for your own country. Maybe you want to leave this open. So the type of validation that you want to do will depend on you. I'm just showing you how to have a successful completion and then how to have an invalid address, okay? How you implement that is up to you. All right, so let's go ahead and test this and make sure that we can now see these shipping methods. So I'm gonna run it. Come over here to our checkout cart, go to shipping, and now when we press next, we should see, there we go, our 2 shipping methods. Awesome. And you can see where the properties that we added are, where they line up. We have UPS ground, arrives in 3 to 5 days, the price, so 0 corresponds to free. Same thing with the FedEx. FedEx, the name, the detail, and the price. Very good. And so now when we click on one of these and we say done, our payment context did change is going to update. So now we can put in the code right here to update our selected shipping method button. Okay, so we can say if let shipping method is equal to payment context dot selected shipping method, and again this is the user's currently selected shipping method, maybe nil, so we need to unwrap it. If we have one, then we're going to do a few things. We are going to set the title for our button to the shipping method label. So we'll do that first. We'll say shipping method button dot set title, and the string is going to be our shipping method dot label, and this is a short localized description of the item for control state dot normal. Next, we are going to need to set the Stripe cart shipping fees, all right? So if you recall, in our Stripe cart, let me see if I can find that real quick, we have our total variable, which is comprised of the subtotal, processing fees, and the shipping fees, all right? So we have this variable, shipping fees. Up until this point, it has been 0. Now, this is where we are going to add the shipping fee to our Stripe cart. So I'm going to say Stripe cart dot shipping fees, and we can get the shipping fee from our shipping method, okay? And that is right here, shipping method dot amount. However, this is an NS decimal number, and we need to convert that to an integer in pennies, right? So all of our Stripe stuff needs to be done in pennies. So what we're gonna do is we are going to first turn it into a double. We're gonna multiply that by 100, and then we're going to turn that into an integer, okay? So let's do that. We'll say double, and we're gonna convert our NS decimal into a double. So we're gonna say truncating, so we add an NS number, and that NS number is shipping method dot amount. Okay, so now we have a double. We're going to multiply that by 100. So in the case of the FedEx, this number right here, this double, this would be 6.99, $6.99. And we're getting an error here because we're trying to assign a double to an int. So now we need to cast this whole thing to an integer. There we go. So now this double, 699, times 100, so 6,990 is going to then be converted to an integer, which is stored in shipping fees. All right, very good. And then we can call our function setup payment info, which will then update all of our payment labels. Okay, so we can say setup payment info. Very good. If for some reason there isn't a shipping method label, then we are going to say else, and we're going to say shipping method button dot set title, and the title is going to be select method for state dot normal. And let's save that and run this and test it out. All right, very good. Let's go ahead and add a couple of products to our cart. Go to our cart, automatically sets our selected payment method based on the default source for our Stripe customer. So let's add a shipping method now. So go to next, I'm gonna select FedEx and say done. And the chain of events should be that we set the title for our shipping method button, then we set our shipping fees variable, and then we update our payment info. So I'm gonna say done. And there we go. So now we have a value for our shipping and handling cost. Our total is updated to reflect the sum of these three values, and our shipping button now says FedEx, which is our selected shipping method. Awesome. All right, so that is fantastic. In the next lessons, we're going to finish up with these last three delegate methods, and then we got another cloud function to write, so hope you're excited for that. I will see you in the next one.